So if while you're running your CAM reconciliation report, something doesn't look right, let's go over what those typical solutions would be. So in your operating expense tab, we're going to click on that actual button again to get into our actuals. And now we're going to pull back to 2024 again. In here, you see that there's a wide discrepancy, so something must not be right. Down here, you see that there are no taxes listed, so that's probably what we're going to be looking for. I'm going to go back to 2023 once just really quick to make sure, and sure enough, there's no taxes in 2023 either. So I don't think that it was just posted in the wrong year or anything like that, that something is wrong with that. So because there's something wrong with that, we are going to go into our integration tab and we're going to open up that integration for our QuickBooks Online account and take a look at it and look at the mapping because something I think is not correct. So in here, I'm going to be taking a look at the mapping and I'm going to sort this by my operating expense categories. And you see that there's no taxes listed in here, which again, seems a little odd. If you ever have any questions of what is getting mapped exactly to that subcategory, you can come in here. And so you can see that on this property management fees subcategory, this is where all of those expenses are coming from that QuickBooks account and so forth and so forth. So now I'm going to type in the word taxes in here or tax. And sure enough, this is my property tax account. This property tax account is not going to a sub-account, a subcategory, or an OPEX. It is going to the real estate taxes on our owner's dashboard, but not into the CAM. So we want to fix that by clicking Map Accounts, and we're going to take our operating expense category, and we're going to scroll all the way down to the real estate tax. Because it's already in the correct place on the owner's dashboard, it just needs to go to CAM reconciliation. Press save and confirm, and that will map that out for us. I'm going to delete what's in my search bar. And now you can see that that is going to the OPEX category tax, and then so that's where it's going to go in the rent roll. And then you're also seeing that it's going to the OPEX subcategory called real estate taxes. I'm going to go back to that lease one more time and I'm going to refresh that page. And I want to see now if that has come into play and that amount is now in here. Typically, it just takes a second just to refresh your page and the changes are there. So we'll click on the actuals one more time. And again, going back to 2024. And now that full amount of 23,000 is in there. So that looks much better where the tenant is now actually owing us $3,323. So a couple other things. One is while we're in here, I just wanted to show you that you will see that for this tenant, we just charged the $31,500 for the entire period of time for just CAM. With that said, the things that make up CAM are repairs and maintenance, snow removal, insurance, and taxes. That is totally normal to see it like this if that's the situation and they aren't individually separated per subcategory on the invoicing. So another thing to look for though is inside of our QuickBooks account, let's go back to here again, and we're going to go look into our classes. So if there's something different or if you've added any new classes. So for instance, in here, we've added Unit 3A to Partridge Parkway, and there is no mapping for that class. So any expenses posted to this tenant in Unit 3A will get allocated across all tenants based on their pro rata share. So that is not something we want to do. So we want to map this to that unit, and I'm going to select that Unit 3A and save changes. So now that should be posted to that specific unit. You can also post expenses with the class to an asset or a building, just depending on how your QuickBooks is set up and how STRATAFOLIO is set up to work with that. In your QuickBooks itself, that has pulled up our profit and loss again for 2024, and you can see all of our reimbursable expense accounts here. So I'm going to double check on my first year that I used the CAM reconciliation, going to check to make sure that these are all lined up correctly and that my numbers match to make sure that that's all accurate. When I'm doing that though, one thing to make sure that you are checking is right here that you change this to cash if it's not already set to a cash. This means that yes, you can do your accounting and your tax return on accrual basis, but for CAM reconciliations, we do that on a cash basis. So how much cash have you actually put out of pocket? So you can see those amounts if they have changed based on that cash basis. Another thing, if you are using classes, is to make sure that you are scrolling over. We suggest doing this quarterly at least, but definitely before you run CAM reconciliations to make sure that there's nothing listed in any of those reimbursable or CAM expense accounts listed under not specified or admin because any expense posted to a CAM reimbursable expense account should be also allocated to the specific asset and or unit. Down here, you will see we do have an admin account class set up, so there are admin expenses. However, those again are only in our overhead accounts. That is not anything that will get allocated to the tenants and part of their CAM.